Okay. My first and actually only guest tonight, starring in quite a controversial movie now called Blue Velvet. His career over the past 30 years that this film career has been going on, he has been in more than 50 films. And one of the most memorable was Easy Rider, the film of the 60s. Please welcome Dennis Hopper. I gotta tell you something, usually when you say to someone that had been in 4 decades of film, you think of Cary Grant or something. But when I was, thinking about, the stuff and us talking, I thought, my God, you were there in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, you're there in the 80s. You spanned 4 decades. What was it like from the 50s to the 60s, the differences you saw?
Well, in the 50s, the problem was how do you get in the door, That was the first one. And the 50s were very, well, you had the Gary Coopers and the Cary Grants, and all those people were establishments. So when I came in with Rebel Without a Cause, I was 18 years old, and there was James Dean, and Marlon Brando and Montgomery Clift had set a different kind of acting style. And the directors that we were working with had very set sort of school mom approaches where they gave you line readings and blocked you and told you when to pick up the cup and when to put it down and so on. And Dean had fought that, and Brando and Clift, and so it was sort of a fighting process between the younger people who wanted to work in a method approach. Lee Strasberg, they'd all studied with Strasberg, and so that changed. That was sort of the 50s.
That sort of paralleled society itself with the young people, right? They were doing the same thing. They were trying to break the molds and change and be freer and everything. So the movie industry is sort of paralleling, right, the times in this country.
Right. I mean, we started out bohemians, and we became beatniks. Then we became hippies, and then we became whatever, yippies, yuppies, it goes on and on. But I always feel that's very healthy.
Yeah.
Because it's struggling against the younger people are fighting what their fathers, and then their children become their fathers again, and it keeps going back and forth, and I think that's a very healthy society.
But 60s were really the most tumultuous of the 4 decades in which you were making films in which you were around.
Yeah.
I mean, the 60s were the time of rebellion.
Yeah.
You think that rebellion, what do you think happened to that great rebellion of the 60s?
I don't know. It was a great time. I mean, there were... We were like guinea pigs. I mean, we really were guinea pigs. I mean, we took all the drugs, and we were sort of cannon fodder, like for civil rights, and cannon fodder to stop a war, and just went on and on. And there were great times, and then that changed too. It was sort of like we were all holding hands, going out to find God and truth and justice and all this stuff, and then. What was once free and being given away was suddenly there were people demanding prices for it, and people became addicted, and it got into another period of time.
Well, when you came out with Easy Rider was the first film, because it's such a cult film now, it was the film of the 60s probably, in which you introduced to the public for the first time the consumption of cocaine. I mean, it went from that to where Al Pacino's sitting there with 3,200 pounds sticking his face in it.
Yeah, really.
I mean, that's the evolution of it.
Yeah. And a lot of guns.
Yeah, I mean, he snorted enough to stay awake for at least 7 years in that one.
Took a lot of bullets, too.
Yeah, well, that's why he took that. He didn't know he was dead for like 14 minutes of the film. But when you made Easy Rider, I mean, cocaine was such a in the background kind of a substance at that time.
It was called the drug of kings. I'd only seen it a couple times, We used baking soda. Actually, we couldn't afford it or find it when we made the picture. But shortly after the picture was out, it was everywhere.
Yeah, and then you couldn't get baking soda, right?
That's right, yeah.
It was like Arm & Hammer cocaine. But that was a whole new world. I mean, the whole generation in the swing of the drugs. Now, the people now you're doing a film about it, using baking soda. But then you got caught up in that, and I want to talk more about that after we take a little break, because everybody who was like watching it suddenly found themselves victims of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back with more Nightlife right after this. Talking with Dennis Hopper, we're going back into the 60s, where it was in the media, you know, in the film, and everybody starting, the drug scene came along. And then what happened is the people who were looking at it got swept into it. Yeah. And I know you did, personally.
Boy, yeah.
There were bad times. You just got right into that and the drug. And how did you finally get out of it? Because now we're going through the next stage, which is crack. You know, that's where it's going there.
Yeah, well, I went crazy. I just went insane. I was doing a half an ounce of cocaine every 3 days by myself, and
wow.
Yeah, and you know, it's counterproductive. I didn't even know why I was holding the gun anymore. Yeah. And I thought the telephone wires were talking to me. You know, we had personal messages going, and I heard my friends being murdered in the next room, and there wasn't even another room, you know. And the radio, everything on the radio was personal to me, and the space people were guiding me and so on. And I found myself walking nude somewhere in Mexico, you know.
Wow.
And it's amazing I'm alive. It's amazing I'm alive. So I ended up incarcerated in Los Angeles in a drug rehabilitation place. And I came out of that was 4 years ago. I came out of that thinking that alcohol was obviously the problem. You know? And I thought, well, I'll just stop drinking, continue doing cocaine, you know? I mean, it's obvious that, you know, it was the alcohol. You know? So, yeah. So I did a year, you know, without drinking, doing cocaine like I drank beer all day long, just doing it all day long. But now I was hiding it, because now I was clean. I was ridiculous. So anyway, same voices, same people murdering. I never got to see the people who was doing the murdering. It was really weird. But anyway, same scene. Telephone wires, that's when I know it's time, you know, they come and get me and take me when the telephone wires start talking to you. But anyway, I ended up 3 years ago, again incarcerated. I put myself in. And this time, I have not had an aspirin in 3 years. My life is wonderful. I can't...
See, that's... You know, it's like you're here... You know, for all of us who go through it or went through it and got out of it, you know, and at that time it seemed so great to do and all that. And I had a friend, Freddie Prinz, who just did it one night and blew his brains out at age 22, which I've never gotten over. And people think it's a joke, and they think the crack is a joke, and there's nothing funny about it. You know, the only real dope is yourself, you see. I'm not preaching it, I'm just telling you, man, I've seen the worst of it since I'm a kid.
That's right.
And you really think it's going to change your whole creative force, that you're going to be smarter and brighter and hipper and everything, and it's not that way at all.
Because you're those things already or you aren't. It isn't taking you anywhere, you know, it really isn't. And to have the idols of the people who died, unfortunately, from drugs and from alcohol and from those things, those people were already talented people, and the drugs were just another thing. Life without drugs and alcohol is so simple. There's no paranoia, there's no schizophrenia, there's none of the jazz goes down, and you can work and you don't get tired and you go on with things, and life is a pleasure.
You know, and the greatest example of this is you, because you have, in the last year and a half, your career has taken off, you see, and your career has gone higher than you ever went on your drugs.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, I'm a fan of yours, and I'm glad it happened. I'm glad we talked about it. Maybe somewhere, someone's going to say, man, let me get rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for coming here, and I want to thank you for talking. And we're going to come back right after this. Welcome back. Listen, how's the film Blue Velvet doing?
It's doing fantastic.
It is doing great.
It's breaking all records here in New York. Doing great in L.A.
You know what I heard? I heard two things about it, which are, one is that you win the award for saying the F word more than any other actor ever did in a film.
Lenny would be very proud of you.
Lenny would have been proud of you. And also that you won the Best Actor from the Montreal Film Festival. That's the best thing about it. I want to wish you a lot of luck. Thank you for coming, Dennis. Good night. See you tomorrow. Good night, everyone.